Welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And with me, Robbie.
And this is episode 59, and we are reviewing Nope.
So we've come straight from the cinema in the middle of this heat wave to check out Jordan Peele's third movie, Nope, which I believe came out a few weeks ago in America, but it is opening day for it in the UK today. So we thought we'd go and we'd drop our review early. And as always, just before we get into it, we've had a lot of listens for our episode of Prey, which is always great. We've had a lot of new listeners, a lot of old listeners. So thank you for listening. Just make sure to hit the subscribe button so you get the episode as soon as it comes. We're very grateful for people checking us out and for the new listeners. So thank you. Just remember to subscribe and leave us a lovely review. So we're not, we're going to do this as we usually do when we do our reviews. We'll be talking about kind of spoiler-free thoughts, and then we'll give a countdown and we'll go into kind of our main scenes that we enjoyed, didn't enjoy, that kind of stuff. But we'll give you a countdown for that.
Yeah. So, Nope. So this is followed from Get Out and Us.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Us, as I mentioned before. I was going to try and catch it this week, but I didn't get around to seeing Us. I've seen Get Out.
Yeah.
Get Out is pretty much it. As good as people normally tend to say. It maybe a little bit overhyped at times, but it's a very well made film with a very good social commentary built in within this kind of weird psychedelic kind of horror that's kind of in there.
So I've seen Get Out and Us. I saw Get Out in the cinema. Really enjoyed it. Daniel Kaluuya. I think the first time I saw him was in Skins, I think.
Oh yeah,
back in the day in the old UK. So it was really good to see him in a film, and he is almost Jordan Peele's muse, being in his a lead in two of his three films.
Yeah, I believe Jordan Peele actually said he's like his De Niro.
Yeah, which is cool. I really enjoyed Get Out. Us, I thought, started off strong, and then for me kind of lost its way a bit in the middle, but yet again had some good social commentary, had an amazing performance from Lupita, and I think this film it's been kind of it's an interesting film, I think.
It definitely is. It's an interesting concept. Just thinking about Us, as I haven't seen it, I just want to ask, does it have more graphic violence? Does it show more blood or gore or anything like that? Because Get Out didn't really.
I don't remember it being.
I've seen clips in in scenes and stuff where it looked like there was knives or blood or someone getting dragged across the ground in blood. But I was wondering, does it actually ever show any actual?
I've only seen it once. I can't remember there being a whole lot. There's a lot of implied violence.
Yeah.
There's some graphic scenes, but there's nothing, like torture porn levels of gore or anything like that. But there are some graphic scenes that I do remember.
Because this only has very few moments, but mainly it is very not graphic really at all. It has some strong visuals, definitely.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of it, if you're thinking of this as going to give you some kind of, as a horror film, if you're thinking this is going to give you some kind of graphic or gory kind of shots or scenes, not really. Not really. The outside of maybe a couple of little, tiny little bits that kind of give us some body or some eyes or things like that kind of thing, little parts.
Yeah,
it was just a thought that popped into my head because it's something I noticed when I was watching with a Jordan Peele film. Is from what I've seen of his work so far, it's suspenseful. He's very Hitchcock kind of in style. He likes to kind of keep it close to his chest, everything he knows about a film, but they rarely delve into, so far that I found so far, into the full-on violence of things. It's normally off shot if there is some kind of violence, or it's normally not that there's not blood or things like that, but it's normally more what your imagination builds is what he seems to create.
Yeah, and he's quite good, for throwing off kind of. I'm trying to think of the right word. It's late when we're recording this. Try to throw off, what people think might happen.
Well, he leaves like an aura of mystery around his film, and he's lucky now that Get Out was so successful that he's pretty much he's literally at the moment he's in that kind of Christopher Nolan kind of category where basically some of the only people, like a few directors that actually get to make fully original content.
Yeah.
And they don't kind of seem to get much interruption into that. They kind of get to do what they want to do and bring it out because like Christopher Nolan, all of his films, they always have a sense of mystery. They release trailers, but they don't really tell you anything about what it's really about or, things like that. If you saw any of the early of say Inception or Tenet or even his new one Oppenheimer, that one's a bit more obvious because it's about an actual person, so you've got to kind of assume,
Well, I think part of that comes from because Jordan Peele's a producer. He is part of he created Monkey Paw Productions, which this is produced by, obviously with Universal Pictures.
He's writer, producer, and director. So he's doing it all. He's doing the auteur kind of thing. But having the vision is fully Jordan Peele's kind of thing. It's just interesting that he's got himself to that point where he gets to be this kind of. So I think this kind of helps lean into what you might experience when you come to this film, because you might have watched the trailers and things like that, but if you've watched Get Out and Us, you're going to come in with probably, I'd like to hope, very little knowledge of actually what's going on. You might have seen shots, you might have an idea that this is an alien film or something like that, but you don't know what kind of alien film it is or anything like that. It's not really a spoiler because that is shown in majority of trailers. Majority of content have kind of shown that it is of some kind of alien film, but we don't really know in what vein.
Yeah.
So coming into this film, I think we both were kind of in the situation where we had no idea really where he was going to go with this at all.
No.
Apart from knowing that there's a UFO of some kind we've seen in one single shot in a trailer.
Yes,
and then the sunk in the clouds. That's about it. And you don't know where he's going to go with it, which adds a nice kind of. For his films, I guess it's more of it comes with its own suspense before you've even started watching the film, because you're kind of suspensefully watching to be like, is this when it's going to kick off? Is this when it's going to happen? And that's can sometimes be positives and negatives with this film.
Yeah,
with Nope.
And I think one thing about Jordan Peele is he does obviously have a comedy background, kind of going from Key and Peele. I can never remember which way it is. I think it's Key and Peele.
It's Key and Peele.
Yeah,
it's a very funny show.
Yeah, and I think he's because of that. I think a lot of the times his writing is extremely strong. He can make he can add comedy into his films without it kind of feeling forced. And the thing that I will say about his films, and particularly Nope, is it's quite often very character driven, and a lot of the performances we get are extremely strong. In this film, for instance, Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer are the two main characters. We do have Stephen Yen in it, and he's good for what he's in. But I didn't really feel like he was in a large chunk of the film.
He's not. He technically does have a key role in this. He does have a key role in this film. And that's not a spoiler to say. It's just the way he's used in the film is kind of but he is actually quite a key to like a backstory of this film.
Yeah, definitely.
Michael Wincott is very good again in what he's in, kind of thing.
Yeah,
as that he I mean, I said as we were leaving, and to me, I feel this is very true, that this is an alien deconstruction of Jaws. This is a film where Jaws had, yes, everyone kind of tends to remember all of the scenes with Jaws.
Yeah.
As I'm referring to it as Jaws.
Jaws the shark.
The Jaws the shark. Whatever, you want to call the shark. But people tend to forget that film is actually almost 2 hours long, and actually is mainly filled with a lot of scenes of family and the sheriff and the discussions with the town and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And that's what this film is. This is a film that is chock full of scenes like that, which some people might find boring in some parts, but it's also then laced throughout, like a good Spielberg or Hitchcock or thriller. It has these moments where, because you know so little about it, you're kind of sat there and like, oh, what's this? What's like, when's this coming?
Yeah.
There's darkness and the power's going out, and you're not quite sure what's making that noise, and you've got weird noises coming in the air, and also because the marketing's so much around the clouds, gotta be honest, I was constantly looking at the cloud, which worked as well to build the suspense in my own head, purely because of this weird kind of, the way that the marketing pointed me towards that.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, and I think that's a good analogy for that.
Well, I think it also, like, the main part of that I didn't mention was the fact that it also, the UFO part, not going into that too much, but that is we're not really revealing it. We're just kind of like the shark. We're kind of just hinting at where it is and things like that, and and even that kind of, I'm not going to say there's not like a body count, because there's actually there is a body count. But yeah, it's just that in my head, this is definitely what I could see the whole time I was watching it. Was just like, that's that feels like a throwback. But I'm not saying that this is an original, because it does have some very original ideas within it.
Yeah.
There's some very good ideas, and there's some ideas I really loved, and there are some scenes that are like fantastic. I gotta be honest, this is really hard, because this is a film which you should go in blind.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You're listening to this, and I feel like this is why we're gonna have to move past the spoiler bit really quickly, because I'm struggling to talk about this without actually talking about what happens.
Yes.
And a Jordan Peele film, like, as we've found, you kind of need to go in blind. So you can listen to this, and this is fine, but I feel like we're going to struggle to talk.
Well, I mean, for me, I think
summarize what your thoughts.
For me to summarize, I did enjoy the film. I was going to say I did really enjoy it, but I don't think I did really enjoy it. There were some scenes. Performances were extremely strong, particularly Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, and whoever played Angel. I thought those performances were strong. I thought that the cinematography was great.
Yeah,
there were some scenes in it, mainly the scenes that took place at night, which I think were filled with really good tension. But then there were large parts of the film where, unfortunately, I didn't really feel like there was any tension, or particularly after a particularly great scene that takes place during a storm, we then get to the final act of the film, or the final chapter, which we'll see, because it's kind of broken down into chapters. And then I kind of didn't really feel any tension. The social commentary I thought was interesting, and I thought it was a good idea, and I thought it was Get Out was good, but at times it felt a little heavy-handed in some of its messages. This film, I think, managed the social commentary better, but there was one scene in particular which would make sense. But when I was watching it, I was kind of like, this is getting smacked on the head with it. It was a bit too laying it on thick, and I was like, yeah, I get it. It's kind of like.
Can you give a hint without giving a spoiler?
It's a character turning up.
TMZ. Just say TMZ. So when you see the film, you'll know what.
Well, yeah, at that scene, I was like.
That was the only one that seemed a bit like, okay, you're
cramming it down.
You're cramming that one. That one's a bit in your face.
If I didn't get it, you're cramming it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd recommend it. I still think Get Out is his best film. I would say I think I prefer this to Us, because for me, I think Us started good, and then I kind of lost a bit of interest in it. But I mean, I would recommend somebody seeing it because it's new horror.
Yeah.
I mean, me and you disagree on things. People are allowed to have their opinions on films, and just because I think it was okay doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to love it. So I would definitely go in it, and I would go in blind, and then I would come back, and if you agree with me, cool. If you don't agree with me, respectfully let me know over on Twitter or Instagram at CMTH Podcast. What about Summarize for you, Epa?
Yeah, I will just, while I was listening to you, there was one bit when you said there are some scenes and then you had a pause, and I thought that was your comment.
There were some scenes.
In this film, there were some scenes.
There were some scenes.
That sounded like, at that point, I was like, you stopping? I was like, that sounds like a damning, negative impact of this film. This film is like the vaguest way to be nice about saying it had scenes.
Yeah.
There were people in it. You know what I mean? The other thing is, did you see Us in the cinema? No. You see, I just wonder if that has another impact, because Get Out and Nope both saw in the cinema.
Maybe.
And Us, I don't know why, but there's definitely, you got to admit, there's something about watching it at home that when you're not quite into certain scenes in a cinema, you're in.
Yeah, you're stuck in.
When you're not quite into certain scenes at home, you can kind of let yourself drift away, or maybe look at your phone. You know what I mean?
Potentially.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I just wonder how it's interesting how the impact of cinema can change certain things.
Yeah,
I do think that has an important impact on how we view certain films.
Yeah.
So for me, I've already mentioned my analogy, and I will go more into the spoiler bit, into why, in many, many ways, this is basically Jaws. But I'm not giving up on that one. But I for the most part, really enjoyed it. I like character-based films. It's a slow build. It doesn't jump straight into it. It is a bit of a slow build to get to it. But I do think that kind of helps with building, in some ways, the tension, because you are just continually wondering what is doing it. It's not that we don't get ideas of what might be happening. We do get things that start to I don't know, I've lost my last crap.
Trickle.
My words have just, trickle is the word I wanted. Yeah. I just completely, my brain shut down for a second there. They kind of trickle in as you're going through, but for some people who don't kind of like that, that's one thing that I'd say, if you're not the kind of person who likes, if you didn't like Jordan Peele's other films, which have a similar kind of slow build, kind of listening to characters, watching characters, then this probably isn't going to be for you, kind of thing. But I do think that there are some scenes in this which I thought wow. And there was one part you mentioned about the storm part, which when I watched that scene, I was up until that point, because it had that slow build, I thought it built to that so fantastically.
Yeah.
A scene that comes before the storm as well. That whole thing, I was it just introduced what the main concept of the film kind of was, and then we built into these several scenes one after the other, which were really strong. And that part in the film, which is about just past probably the mid to just before the final third act, isn't it? Basically,
yeah.
I don't know if it's the beginning or if it's just the end of the second or the beginning of the third act.
It feels kind of the beginning of the third act.
I think that part, I thought I'm totally into this film. I think I'm going to love this film. Doesn't stick the landing, is what I'd say.
Yeah,
the film doesn't quite stick the landing. It just, where it goes just towards the end, just starts to feel a little bit don't think it quite knew where to go with it after that point. Did build it so expertly. There's a reason that this in particular is maybe a hard one to pull off. To how do you stop this now? How do you come to a conclusion of this kind of?
Yeah.
And, and it's not quite as, this is a much more straightforward film than Get Out, or I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But I've heard that Us is a little bit more complicated. There's a little bit more to understand with that. Whereas this one, I think, is a bit more straightforward. Yes, there's lots of social commentary and stuff out there, but I feel like this is maybe Jordan Peele's most straightforward kind of film in some ways. There are a few little bits that you'll be questioning afterwards, but I don't think quite as much as say like Get Out like kind of left you with like, what's this? How's that worked? How that, what were they trying to say in some ways, even though, as you said, it was a bit heavy-handed at times. There were still some parts of it you're like, what were they trying to say with that? There's not so much of that social commentary as what were they really trying to say. It's quite obvious, I think, what they were trying to say.
Yeah.
And yes, as I said, it's at time, not very often, but one or two scenes maybe make it a little bit, again, heavy-handed at times, but not nearly as much. He's definitely learning on that front to kind of subtly put it in there instead of just in your face kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right, I think I'm good.
Do you want to count down for spoilers?
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Daniel Kaluuya hangs down. Of course he hangs.
And everybody loved it. The woman sat in front of us especially loved it.
Yeah, what did she say? I didn't hear.
I don't know. She was just happy the whole time. She was I don't know how often you get someone, but she was just the kind of person that every time something funny happened, she was like the first one laughing. But then there was parts she was laughing at that a lot of other people, I don't think.
Yeah.
I was sniggering at most of the parts she was, but she was very loud.
She was loving
like she was loving it. She thought it was great. Like
yeah, and for our American listeners, because we do get quite a few. From what I've heard is, in American cinemas, people do laugh a lot. They do clap. They say things. That doesn't happen in English cinemas, does it?
No.
If you're watching a comedy or something, funny happens, you'll get laughter, but you'll very rarely get people saying things loudly. Most of the times we just sit there and watch. You won't get clapping. You won't get stuff
literally
like that.
Apart from say like Avengers Endgame when there was a big kind of buzz in the room. I think that's the only film I've seen where people were literally like making loud noises and oh my god, like you could see a reaction. And maybe occasionally on a few horror films you might get actions or comedies, like you said. But we definitely, for American listeners, we are not the kind. We do not clap at the end of a film. Like we clap at the end of a theatre show.
Yes,
like because there are actual people in front of us. But I don't know why to us it seems like maybe it's just us British,
maybe
uptight.
Maybe
we sit in a room. But then even at our cinemas, they even give you adverts before to basically be quiet, turn off your phone, don't make loud noises. Like ours very much tell us that. So I don't know what's happening, or maybe this is just a stereotype they've picked up. And in most cinemas, you're like, what are you on about? Like no one claps at our cinemas in America. At least we're wrong. Get in touch. Like but I have been to a few films while I've been in America, and they did clap.
Well, I was going to say I went to I went to see Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, I believe it was, or At World's End. Went to see it with a friend. My friend got so bored he whacked off whilst next to me, whilst Keira Knightley was on the screen. So.
Okay, that's different. No. Yeah, there you go. That's a picture of Britain for you.
It is whacking off in cinemas. It's very funny. But back to the film.
That's probably At World's End. That was a long ass film.
Yeah, I think it was. But yeah, back to the film.
Back to the film. So some of the like key scenes. I mean, the opening scene and something that is laid out throughout it to jump with that one is the Gordy situation.
Yeah.
And now I know that you actually missed quite a lot of the middle scene of the film.
Didn't I?
Yeah. So you were gone for a wee. So you missed the kind of the bit that gave a little bit more, not too much more. But basically we have this opening scene of the film is the chimp who has gone crazy in the middle of what looks like a kind of sitcom shoot. You hear over the Universal I think it is, over the Universal sign, you hear like the kind of crappy, corny kind of catchphrases and audience laughter from a like sitcom-y show. And then when we actually get to see the scene, we just see like a bloody chimp who's like covered, and you see that he's possibly been like, you hear like thumping noises.
Yeah.
And then we get to see this played out later and we find that is actually, to kind of catch you, that was him obviously chasing and hunting down basically all of his cast members.
Yeah.
One of which is the girl.
Who's in it later.
I'm just trying to think of. I'm forgetting what Stephen Young's character's called. Ricky.
Ricky. Yeah. Jupe.
Yeah.
Jupe.
Yeah. Jupe Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is. We find out that Ricky, Stephen Young's character, was actually a boy on that sitcom.
Yeah.
So he was on the sitcom, and he was under the table. And in the opening scene, we see this kind of odd, like there's even a shoe that's kind of sat upright in this odd kind of weird way. And in the recreation scene, we actually get to see that the chimp was like violently beating the character who played like his young sister on the show.
Yeah.
And he's like violently, and then we kind of see like him literally thumping down on there. We don't see it because she's actually hidden behind the sofa. Again, going back to that, she does like, we get to hear it, we get to imagine it, but we don't actually see it.
Yeah.
And there's like what sounds like a kind of violent like rip.
Yeah.
Which I believe is her face getting ripped off by the chimp. And then we see like the dad come down, and he's like trying to stop the chimp, but the chimp chases him through to the other room, and we see the chimp literally beat him down to death, I believe.
Yeah.
Might not be to death. It's hard to say because they said that this was all kind of hidden. So if someone actually died, I feel like maybe they wouldn't have actually got away with hiding this kind of fact.
Yeah.
Because they say it's like played up on Saturday Night Live and things like that, which if it was actually people died and stuff, I feel like there wouldn't have been that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was just more of a traumatic kind of phase for him. And the reason that I kind of bring up this kind of obviously opening scene, because one, it's kind of one that throughout the film you'll be questioning, why is this part of it anyway?
Yeah.
How does this link to everything within the film, kind of thing? Apart from the fact that we obviously get to see that Ricky grew up and he's on the ranch, the little theme park that he's made himself for the out west, and he's had a bunch of reality TV shows, and he was even on a different TV show.
Yeah.
He's kind of almost trying to make money out of his youth a little bit. He's trying to reenact the youth.
He's kind of one of those child stars kind of clinging to fame and success.
Yeah. And the gaudy part kind of comes in. I'm taking this to jump for a couple of parts, but the gaudy part, actually, the link is the idea that Stephen Young's character believes, what we don't realize with, say, the UFO and stuff like that, is that Stephen Young's character believes that because when he was younger, the chimp Gordy, we get to see him
fist bumped.
He does the fist bump before he gets his brains blown out by whoever comes onto set. He is traumatized by that, but it makes him believe that he can make a connection with this UFO, and he can make this kind of bond like he had with the chimp.
Yeah.
And as if the chimp it's almost like he wants to reenact his childhood in that way, as in go back to it and be like, make the UFO the star of his show kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of rebuilding that kind of odd relationship in that weird way.
Yeah, that was my interpretation of it.
Which I think which ultimately leads to his and lots of other people's downfall.
Well, I mean, we might as well stay on that scene whilst we're on it, and Stephen Young's role. Called him Stephen Yen's role. I thought Stephen Yen was good. I mean, I only really know him from obviously The Walking Dead and a film that he did for Shudder, which was kind of a Belko experiment meets 28 Days Later kind of film. Rampage, I think it was called. I can't quite remember. With Samara Weaving, and in that, I think he's a pretty talented actor. I wish that he would have got a few more scenes, because we get a few scenes with him, but overall for him being a character who is, on the poster, and is one of the big names attached to it. I actually think the guy who played Angel Torres, Brandon Pereira, I actually think he had probably had
He
more
had
scenes than
he did have more scenes than
yeah.
Stephen Yeun only had maybe say 4 or 5 scenes before we get to this death scene.
And the death scene was cool. I mean, I liked that, and I kind of liked the. I mean, we'll touch on it when we get to it, but the abduction in air quotes, and that kind of idea of how they're dying and being abducted / digested, eaten, whatever.
Yeah,
I thought that looked really cool, and whilst it wasn't overly gory, it was claustrophobic and it was tense and it felt horrid.
Oh yeah, that scene was amazing. So obviously we have them all stood and he's trying to bring them down, and it's also nice, we get a nice little jump back here because obviously Daniel Clear's OJ is talking about trying to buy back the horses that he's borrowed, when actually it seems as if he's been using the horses as baits. So we up to this point, OJ and MM they think they're the only ones that are onto this, obviously, and we find out that actually Dupe has been onto it for quite a long time, and actually been using these horses he's been buying to try and bring in what he hopes is like a main attraction for his kind of theme park. But Stephen Yeun, obviously in this role, no, he doesn't get very much. I do kind of wonder if it's used for that reason, as in kind of a shock, kind of you didn't expect them to go, because I guess one of the main things with, say, a horror film or this kind of thing is, or even a sci-fi film, quite often you don't expect to see an entire crowd of people be the victims. Like you kind of expect it to be more like a one by one, I'll kind of take you away kind of thing, or I'll take smaller groups. But this is literally like 4 or 30?
I think it's supposed to be 40. And it's during the day as well.
It does say in the news report, it says 40, so it's during the day as well, So we get this whole like nice scene. It's beautifully shot. We even get his sister from the sitcom, who you can see, whose face is like obviously from the animal attack. Which I just read about. Although they said it wasn't really linked to anyone, there's literally a woman in 2009. Her friend was a chimp trainer. And but her best friend is who was called Charlene. She got her face literally like disfigured by a chimp, and she went onto Oprah and is literally wearing basically that same veil hat, just like she does in this film. So he's kind of used that. And this kind of Oprah shot is used as a term throughout the whole film kind of thing. So it's an interesting kind of like that he said it wasn't, but it's too close to him not to have taken that inspiration from it. But you get her disfigured, and she's even wearing a cheese shirt with that. So it's almost as if he uses that as a kind of, look, I'm a good guy kind of thing. I'm kind of helping her kind of thing. But no, the interesting part is he's been using these horses for a while, and a lot of this film so far has been the idea, like almost that it's coming down and taking things, and it seems like it's taking animals or mainly the horses off of the ranch kind of thing. And in this scene, it kind of seems the opposite, because it seems almost as if it's like either you can't get to the horse, but also it's kind of like, well, I've had plenty of those. How about you? Kind of thing. Now, one interesting thing here, and I think this is because this is just before this is when it's really revealed as to what this is with Daniel Kaluuya's character. But to put this into more context, because we said about it again, the claustrophobic, like that scene, like sucking it up. But the UFO is not what we expect of a UFO. This is the part that I really liked. I really liked the idea of this.
I was the opposite. I didn't like it.
You didn't like that?
No.
Oh, I like the idea of, instead of it being aliens inside of a spacecraft, it's the spacecraft is actually a living creature. I mean, I'll clarify and say that I liked it until the end, when I thought it went a bit too off and too far, and I didn't actually need to see it in a different way. But I liked the idea that this classic UFO design that we see in all of these kind of shots and all of these 1950s style. I mean, I already liked it when I thought it was literally going to be little green men inside of when it thought it was little green men inside of a thing. I thought he's going proper B-movie kind of aliens, which I liked that idea, but I just think the concept, having the idea to go, what if it's actually its own living beast? Is a cool idea.
And that's it. I won't say that it's not a cool idea, because I think it is a cool idea. But I think maybe it's me being somebody who I love alien movies. You know, I'm massive on X-Files. I'm a true believer. I'm one of the people who actually does believe that, you know, UFOs exist, and I love podcasts about weird shit and stuff like that. And, you know, I love all of that. And, you know, I was kind of, maybe that's it. Maybe because I was expecting that. Yeah. And I got a bit, I got a bit sucker punched by it. Not because, you know, he does this. He twists our expectations, and he kind of does, you know, a sleight of hand trick of, you know, this is what you think it is, but it's something different. Yeah. This having watched this, going in not knowing anything and expecting this, right now I don't really like it. It could be I watch this again and I go, actually, you know what, I really like it. Or it could be that actually I still don't like it. Yeah. But as it stands, I didn't like it. But like I said, we're not going to agree on everything. No. And for me, that was a point where I was kind of like, because I had the idea that, you know, he's got to subvert our expectations, and I was thinking maybe he would have aliens, and he might go down the, you know, the B movie route of having little green men or greys.
They talked about it in the film. Yeah, they'd mentioned. And then we even get a scene which made us, even for a second, because I think I saw Rob light up a little bit when we had the scene with the alien, what we think is the aliens in the barn. Yeah. Because we get these creepy little kind of round-headed, little beady-eyed kind of creatures roaming around in the barn. And we even get one of our, like, I think that's even a note. One of, like, the word is said several times throughout this film. Yeah. But I think this is even a note as Daniel Kaluuya's character decides to walk away when he sees these little creatures coming towards him. Yeah. And one hangs down in front of him and he punches it in the face.
And I really like that.
And that was Duke's children who were dressed up as the little aliens. So Jordan Peele definitely knew what he was doing when he was messing 100%. With people.
And he messed with me. I'm shaking my fist.
This is what I mean, though, because but then I can't really, without taking that part, I can't really take the originality of this film. And I feel like subverting the expectation of what you think an alien is, and therefore turning it into this kind of living organism that actually is in the shape of that. I don't know. For me personally, I thought that was a really interesting idea. Yeah. I liked the fact that we took it in a different direction. You know, and it kind of worked with the film, but at the same time, as I said, there is towards the end of this film when the alien changes form is when it lost me a little bit, because I was perfectly happy with the form that it was in. So I didn't really see why it needed to suddenly turn into this weird angel, jellyfish, whatever it was, kind of creature. That part is definitely a part when I think, but we'll get towards the end in a minute.
Let's talk about.
Let's go back to that ranch scene a second. Okay. Sorry, the Duke's death and the rest of them kind of thing. Now we have this alien that sucks up. So also liked the idea of tornadoes and the clouds hiding it, so the cloud doesn't move, but then the cloud suddenly is moving and it hides behind the clouds, which is a very cool idea. But I also like the idea that in somewhere that's so like kind of in a desert kind of region, it uses these kind of sandstorms or wind or tornadoes as an actual, like, as if you could have seen a tornado and that's actually one of them. Or you've seen that kind of weird cloud in the sky, or those kind of things, or you think you've seen something, it could be that hiding behind something kind of thing. I liked that use of the idea. And we get this tornado as it's coming, and suddenly you can kind of see it in Stephen Yeun's performance, where it kind of changes from, you know, we're partners, or I'm trying to be your friend, or just like I was with the chimp. Like, that worked out for me. This will work out for me. And then suddenly you see the experts and it's not going to work out for you. And you see them all kind of get sucked up. But I do love the fact that they go inside. You do see what looks like, I think it's one of the horses, skinless. I think as if it's like sucking the nutrients out of whatever it's kind of going. But it's all very quick, so you can't really see anything.
Well, for me, it looked like, intestines.
Yeah,
it was like moving them along
like you're
to
being
digest them.
Really, like, as you said, claustrophobic is kind of the perfect, because I was literally in there, like, that scene was just, it was so sudden, like the way it went from that to, oh my God, they're actually inside and we're suddenly inside. It was so like odd and like grimy and like that kind of closed in kind of feeling. And you were just like, you were wondering if you would, like, again, and this is where the kind of expectation, because you still didn't know, you knew it was an organism, but at the same time, you still weren't sure if they're about to be sucked up into something or they're about to see something else.
Yeah.
But instead you realize that actually, no, it leaves it there because no, that's just that's what they're going to be. They're inside of this organism and they are literally being eaten right now.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of hard to tell who you actually see, like who you see in those moments and things like that. But this whole scene then gives meaning to what happened at the very beginning with the dad, kind of thing. But so does the storm scene that follows this. Kind of, it's not really long after this scene that we
get the storm scene. I think before we get there, maybe let's talk about Daniel Kaluuya's OJ and Kiki Palmer's Emerald.
Yeah, I think so. If we jump back to the start, like I said, kind of thing about.
We start with
Mr. Keith David, who I was excited to see. He's in a very minimal role here. He's literally in 2 scenes, I think. You hear his voice in a few scenes, but I think he's mainly in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
He's in this scene at the beginning where we kind of get to know Haywood Ranch and that they're kind of a Hollywood Hollywood horses, and that they kind of bring them onto sets and stuff like that. And it's the dad who kind of built this kind of company. And it's all based on the idea of the original, the first ever shot film of the black man riding on a horse kind of thing. That kind of repeated the first ever, and they even say the line about, and we hear M say it after her father's death.
Yeah.
When they're trying to sell it as just those two, and OJ and M are not exactly the best team for this. But it came from her father originally, who said that you don't remember the first, you don't remember the first ever person who was actually technically the first ever film star.
Yeah.
Like nobody knows his name. Like nobody really knows who his name. And
what do they say?
Nobody recognizes
the first stunt man. The first maybe action star, and it's the first stuntman, the first something, and the first movie star.
Yeah,
but they don't remember his name.
You remember the movement. You might even remember the horse, but you don't actually remember the actor who was on the horse. And again, so this is a little bit of that social commentary of kind of the way that we get this with the horse on the ranch. This little bit of an idea of like that Hollywood kind of forgets, that media, that all these kind of they kind of forget who made, where they came from. They're at such a point where they're moving on, and we even get that scene with OJ and M that kind of links to this. We even get that in that scene where they're trying to be like the stunt coordinators for the horse, and the fact that the second it goes wrong, replaced with a CGI horse. Yeah, it's replaced straight away. Like the old showbiz ways, the old ways of doing it, we're kind of. And I do think Jordan Peele is trying to stay on the fact that we're moving away from that kind of idea of that kind of old showbiz ways, the old practical ways, and things like that. There's none of that kind of the same way that he kind of likes his old, I'd say, Hitchcockian ways.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of about black erasure.
Definitely.
Because it's made a point that if that the man is a black man riding the horse, and you remember the I don't know if you would say director's name. I can't remember what they say, but you remember the name of the person who shot the footage and presented it, but you don't remember the name of the black jockey riding.
Because that's definitely evident in one. You've got the only 2 black people in the room in that stage are the people who are helping to do something like that. Everyone else who's in charge, or anyone else who's like the people that are actually meant to be the stars, these are the people at the side. They're all white.
Yeah.
it's even thrown to like one little like jump, because I know I'll forget this later, is the fact that Michael Wincott's character, who is the famed cinematographer, the white kind of famed cinematographer, the guy who's meant to get this shot, who's meant to get this Oprah shot, and it's M who gets it at the end. It's the opposite of the whole film. You're expecting him. He even gives up his life to kind of make this shot. He's so like, I have to be the one who gets this power shot. I have to be the one to get this impossible shot. And she's the one that gets it on this kind of just kind of mentality. Cool. You know, it's that kind of, again, it's that kind of commentary of like, it's not that guy. It's like, we need to take back some of that power that you've kind of taken away. Good social commentary again, and I don't think that was too.
No, I thought it was good.
I don't think that was too in your face either.
And that's where I expected the subversion to come in. You know, and I know this is going to sound really stupid, but I was thinking, is it going to be like is this going to be almost borderline like the Predator, when it's like when the Predator's coming to harvest people with autism? I was like, so is the alien coming to harvest black people? And I know it sounds stupid because I was seriously expecting little green men or greys. So I was thinking, like, is that how he's got to try and play with the subversion somehow? I honestly don't know.
I could kind of see them, because literally you are like, this is one thing, because we know so little. We go into these films constantly thinking, what is it? What's the twist, or what's going on here? Like, as I mentioned earlier about the Christopher Nolan thing, it tends to be the same thing in his films. You're kind of sat there like, what is it? What's the twist, or why are they doing this, or what's the reason for this kind of thing? You're sat there thinking that. So I get why you jump to certain things, and he has also had, obviously, as a black writer, director, producer, he's had a kind of common theme of this kind of black culture within his films. So you can totally see him. I think maybe that one would be a little bit too on the nose. That would be a bit heavy-handed.
Definitely would.
To be like, it's only taking the black people and keep it, or it's only taking other cultures, but the white people stay strong.
I don't know. But that's what I was expecting in like the first like couple of minutes. I don't know why. But I mean, going to what I was going to mention about Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer's performances, I kind of feel like performance-wise, they're almost kind of opposites. I think they're kind of supposed to be portrayed as opposites because, you know, OJ, you know, is very much it's quite I think Daniel Kaluuya gives a great performance, and what I kind of love is that obviously Nicholas Hoult and I can't remember who played Effie, you know, Scalario or something. I can never pronounce it. You know, when About a Boy came out and Nicholas Hoult was like the guy to go to, and you know, he was the lead of Skins and stuff like that. But now you have, you know, Daniel Kaluuya and Dev Patel, who were doing a lot more starring roles, and I kind of find it cool that they were both in Skins. I'm sure somebody went to a because they used to have Skins parties, and I'm sure Daniel Kaluuya was a guest at one of them or something like that, and it was basically like in like the Guild Hall, so it was kind of for people who don't know what the Guild Hall is, or like a community centre is.
It's kind of like a town hall.
It's like a town hall. Yeah. So it's like a little party at a town hall where Daniel Kaluuya and like members of the Skins cast would be, and they would just play music, and it was really weird.
I remember his character quite clearly, and it shows his range, because in that even back then he kind of had the range, because in that when you first see him, he's meant to act like he's this like proper like rap kind of kid, you know, this kind of gangster kind of kid. And then the second he sits down to actually away from like bit, and that was a Skins kind of thing. Like he was with these more like these kind of like chabby kind of kids, or with the other black kids kind of thing. And he's acting one way. He goes over to sit with the white people, and suddenly he's speaking in this posh English voice. And it was very funny. His performance even back then, and that was his first ever acting role, and he was very, very funny back then. It showed his range. So the fact that I know that in just one scene from Skins he could do that. Then he can be this American with a flawless American accent, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a lot of people I've heard who, like, they thought Daniel Clear was American.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, the thing that I kind of love about his role is it's quite the opposite of his character in Get Out. I can't remember his name in Get Out, but in Get Out, he's quite confident. He's quite witty. He's quite funny. In this, he's quite often not. He doesn't speak a whole lot. You know, in the first scene where we get him when he is kind of, you know, the horse handler, he's very kind of, he looks very awkward and he looks kind of out of his place. And then throughout the film, he's just very subtle. You know, a lot of his acting is kind of in his eyes and in the way in which he delivers things. It's not like he has long, sprawling monologues or even loads of dialogue.
He doesn't actually have that much. He doesn't actually talk too often, actually.
No. He
probably says the least amount of words of those group of people, especially M is the talker, as we get from the very that scene early on. He's not talking, he's not confident in that way. He's not confident to talk in front of people. He's a good handler. He understands animals.
Yeah.
We get those kind of parts of him that he gets like what's good for the animals, but he's not really a people kind of person. And yet also this kind of subdued point is also what helps certain scenes be. It makes Jordan Peele's more funny scenes in this film land, because he's so subdued that when he actually acts out, like, because even his sister says that he's changed since his dad's death.
Yeah.
That he kind of is a bit more invert kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then we get occasional breaks when you can see they're doing this, but he's actually kind of enjoying himself. He's kind of being back in this kind of role. So any scene when he basically says nope or nah, or, you know, basically, but it's played so well because you see him being so serious as if he's going to approach something. And it's literally like, it's one of those things where Jordan Peele's kind of saying, this is what the dumb black guy would do.
Yeah.
He ain't going to do that. He's not the dumb black guy. So he literally goes, nope, and I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm gone. You know, I'm out of this room. Or even that scene when him and M, when they get really excited about the fact that the Wincot's camera, Antlers Holst.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Michael Wincot's character has a non-electric camera, and they do that kind of clack. You know,
that was awesome.
That was so funny. But again, it was because it was so sparingly kind of laid out that it was funny. You enjoyed seeing his character suddenly have a moment of joy, because most of the time he's quite kind of closed down.
It felt real, almost, because, you know, I think the thing is, particularly my trouble with Marvel films, I know I haven't said about Marvel films for a few episodes, is, you know, or any kind of potential film like this, is sometimes when you get every other line is a wisecrack, or like you get something like that, it gets to the point where it ruins that balance. It ruins it, and whereas when you get a character who is quite subdued like OJ, and then you get a scene like that, it kind of makes it feel like the bond is real there, you know. I mean, I'm sure that they probably are good friends. I can't imagine you would work with somebody on a film and not be friends with them.
But he's also, he's an actor. I guess they work with everyone, but he's also very comfortable, I think, working with Jordan Peele, obviously. He's obviously he gets what Jordan Peele, and again, we talked earlier about the fact that Jordan Peele, as a comedy writer before this, he understands what's funny.
Yeah.
He understands build up to being funny as well. He understands how to lay it out and not just have to just lean way too into it. He's not a throw everything at the wall and hope it's funny kind of thing. To jump back to Marvel, if anyone's seen the most recent Thor film, that was the most recent Thor film. It was literally throw everything that's funny that could possibly be, to the point where every character no longer seems like they're real or realistic in any way. Like that. Like, but he knows how to. Jordan Peele knows how to lay this out. But I think the most interesting people found is, even when they went to Get Out, say with Jordan Peele, was the fact that he was a comedy kind of thing. Yes, it had some satirical or even funny moments within the film, but it was more the fact that it's actually very serious in its approach. But it lays out, and as we've said, it kind of trickles in those kind of satirical moments, which again, it just kind of breaks the tension at certain points.
Yeah.
But that's because there is a lot of tension. This is a suspense-filled film.
I mean, I don't. To be honest, I don't think there was as much tension, because I'm trying to think about. I'm trying to think about it, and whilst I think it was I think it's a really strong movie. I didn't feel there was much tension, because there were a lot of the scenes where we saw the UFO or the alien or whatever we're going to call it. This is for me, maybe in the subversion of expectation of having a lot of the scenes of it during the day, maybe in that, and him thinking, well, actually, it's not just a night thing, it's during the day. For me, maybe sacrificed a bit of the tension for that subversion. That's just my kind of thoughts. I can't say it's not a well-made film, because the writing, I mean, I know we briefly touched on Keke Palmer, but she can act her ass off, man. She was great throughout the whole film.
And again, it's not. I've seen Keke Palmer in a few things, and she's not playing exactly the same thing. She's been in several other. She's not playing exactly. She's a very like hyper, over the top kind of character in this in certain scenes,
and she balances OJ out well.
She does balance her out. There is a point early on when I started to think, is she going to be a really annoying character? Like, is she going to be a one-dimensional kind of? That's all that's to her. But you do slowly get more kind of idea about her. And that she's not just going to leave her brother. And she's obviously, the only reason she's in this for half of the film is because she's not just going to leave her brother to do it. And she knows her brother won't leave. Kind of thing. Which builds, like, at the end, kind of is one part that kind of works because of that build up throughout the film. But I don't know, I just think that there are plenty of we'll talk about probably the best scene in the film, which is the storm. But like the aliens, the opening scene where we have the bits falling out of the air, we just hear the hitting the ground, and then obviously we see Dad fall off, and we find out it's a coin, that went into his eye that killed him. And lots of other things, like we see a key that's landed into it. So we know from later that, and again in the storm, which confirms this to us, that all of those bits that are falling out are the bits that it's taken from other people. So people have already been taken, because these were whatever possessions were on the people kind of falling out of the sky in this kind of odd. So that's a very clever little part, the idea of the falling peoples, and the fact that from that height, that is actually going to be deadly weapons that are falling down, when actually it's just the alien, the UFO, dropping out all of the stuff. It's basically having a shit on you. Basically it's shitting out all the stuff it doesn't want, which is basically just the possession. So but the loads of the storm, at the theme park when Stephen Young's. But again, I think tension purely because I think not knowing what's going to happen, I think that alone, like, I don't know, I might find less on the second viewing because I know what's going to happen.
Maybe,
But I just felt it kind of running through at the beginning, because I was kind of wondering what's coming. Every time he looked up or noticed something in the clouds or the sky. And I get the whole, once you see it more and more, you start to lose a little bit of that tension when it's like moving through the sky kind of thing. But again, that's why I said Jaws, because it's that moving around the sky. It's the same way the shark was moving around the water kind of thing. It's that kind of parallel of, you're kind of seeing it waving, but when's it going to come for you kind of thing. You're watching it kind of move around in the water. You're watching it come, like that kind of way. So it's that kind of thing. I kind of thought the suspenseful tension part was the part that kind of did work in the film. Whereas when certain parts, and I don't know, there's not actually that many parts I don't find didn't work. It's, for me, it mainly is towards the end that I just kind of felt a little bit didn't quite work.
Yeah,
We'll come to that in a second. Should we talk about the storm?
Let's talk about the TMZ first, because I don't want to talk
that's
too
part
much.
of the ending scene, though, isn't it?
Okay, we'll talk about the storm. I just want
the storm comes like that, and then we lead into that, and we can talk about TMZ because he's kind of a part of that kind of plan at the end.
Yeah.
After this is pretty much following, we have OJ. He's gone to the ranch or the theme park, whatever it is, and he's noticed that people aren't there. He's even been knocked on his ass when it comes back and tries to get it.
Yeah.
But lucky the horse is still going.
Yeah,
lucky the horse is it is lucky because it's the only horse that doesn't seem to get taken.
No.
And yeah, this is the part when he confirms to himself that it's not just it's a living organism, and that if you look at it, it seems to be. That was one part that didn't completely work for me, because it was like it was taking horses and stuff like that, and I don't know, the horse staring right up at you to make you notice it, and there was a little bit of I found a bit of a flaw to that kind of idea that you had to look at it for it to recognize you and therefore come after you.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It seemed like a little bit of an easy, I don't know. It was like they were trying to come up for a reason why it would come after you.
Yeah.
And that was one that I just thought wasn't quite fully formed as an idea.
Yeah.
Because of the people that have been taken before, I know, like, we get that because they were all like looking right up at it.
Yeah.
Of course they were. But although actually, again, I did actually, Jordan Peele did say that the whole film came from the concept of, obviously during COVID and stuff like that, the fact that we were constantly indulging in content of, basically like grim death. Yeah. He wanted to make a film like that. But also the main thing was, and I guess this is where this comes from, this is why he's talking about the fact that people look at it and therefore, but why are you looking? Because you're actually bringing danger.
Yeah.
He linked it to when a car accident happens on a motorway or a freeway.
Yeah.
The idea that when a car accident happens on a freeway, half the time, the reason you've got traffic on your side of the road, which isn't the side of the road the traffic accident happened, is because cars start to slow down in order to look at what's happened. We as humans slow down, literally put our lives at risk to look at someone else's life who might have been lost. And that's the kind of thing he said kind of gave him the idea. He wanted to make a film where basically it's like the idea that, do you realize you're looking at the thing that could actually kill you? Like in that situation, you slow down, you're more likely to cause an accident that could kill you. And yet you're doing it because you're so interested in death. And that also links to TMZ guy in a minute, I think, as to why this kind of idea of being so obsessed with the blood in the grim parts of life kind of can sometimes be overindulged with us.
Well, that's it. I mean, did you see Logan Paul's tweet about it?
I didn't see Logan. I've seen loads. I didn't actually look at any of these articles because, to be honest, Logan Paul's just a twat.
He is a twat, but it's an ironic one because so Logan Paul put, Nope is one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. I love Jordan Peele and Keke Palmer can act her ass off, but this movie is objectively slow and confusing with stretch themes that don't justify the pace of Fred. And the idea, and the funny thing is, everyone was saying it's a film about people like you, because obviously Jake Paul did the fucking Suicide Forest, where he saw a body and was laughing at it.
Yeah.
And it's the irony, is that we're looking at that, people filming the trauma and people, watching it and engaging with it and not being able to look away almost.
Yeah. And like we said about the old showbiz ways going away, the old, or just in general, the fact that, we can now create content and barely have to have anything or have to have done anything to achieve that content. We don't have to be the hard-working people who work hard to train and plan and do all those things for, say, the horses, like in this film. Instead, we can just show up with a camera and suddenly we're stars.
Yeah.
Or we've got fame, or like he is.
And that and that is my problem with
we do stupid shit for that.
Yeah, and that's the problem with, because I liked it and I was like, this is a pretty cool way of showing it, because this alien won't take you if you're not making eye contact with it, which I thought was kind of cool, because naturally people look at it, and and they compared this to like him, Jordan Peele going Spielbergian, and in Spielberg, Close Encounters with the Third Kind and E.T. and anything he does with aliens, you always have the people doing the shot where they're staring up at it, and it's the kind of it's twisting that on its head by not looking, and looking at that's going to get you killed. And I thought, that's a really cool way of getting it in and kind of doing it. But then when TMZ showed up, and somebody showed up, and I was like, oh, maybe this is like a government agent, I don't know. And then they were like TMZ. I was like, to me it felt like when like in Wayne's World, when he's like, we won't bow down to any corporate backers, and he's like eating Pizza Hut and stuff like that. It's kind of like it was almost to me like Jordan Peele going, do you get the message? If you haven't got the message this far, I'm going to explain it to you, or I'm going to give you a really simple way of getting it.
He had a few of these kind of there were a few little name drops and stuff like that. There was one where they make a joke about the CW, which is like a very teen orientated like channel in America.
I've seen CW going around. I don't know what it means.
CW is the place that makes shows like Vampire Diaries and all the Arrowverse, Flash and things like that.
I always see him say about Arrowverse,
those kind of ones, and Riverdale and stuff like that. It basically makes all the teen, like Supernatural, Smallville, they all started out on the CW and stuff like that. So there always been that kind of orientated kind of thing. So that was kind of the joke, which again, that was one of the only ones that didn't land for me, because I was like, and also the one about when Stephen Young's talking about SNL and he's naming all of the actors and he goes through names one by one, which felt a bit indulgent on Jordan Peele's part, because I feel like he's talking about the actors who really like influenced him from like a comedy background, SNL kind of thing. But because he's naming that, I guess for an American audience, maybe. But even then, I think that it was a little bit too niche in its kind of delivery. It seemed that whole scene was a little bit odd, the way he was talking about it.
Yeah, for me, I got that scene and I thought that was just to say, like, this was the time period that it happened. When they said the names, I didn't know any of them. Like Saturday Night Live, I've never watched an episode. It's not on TV over here. It's strictly an American.
It's barely shown. Like there's very few channels that would show. So
I've never seen it.
I think it's on Sky. That's the only one that has it. Sky's
got like 900 channels.
Yeah, exactly. So it's on that kind of thing. But that's only recently in the last few years it's even started to show it. But yeah, that's what I mean. So it's not a worldwide thing, but again, this is American director, so that's fair enough. I just felt it was a little bit too. So some of those references were a little bit too like on the nose, like a little bit. You've made your kind of point. You don't need to keep going on about certain things in that way. So yeah, the TMZ guy showing up was a definite, especially when basically. Yes, we hate those kind of guys like those. I don't know many people who love the idea of these people that come up and basically prey on the unsuspected, like the celebrities, and basically make their life hell by constantly following them with cameras and basically showing up all the times. They seem like dirtbags. they normally do. But to then be so like, right, so this is the guy. The electric motorbike scene, to be fair, was funny. Because of the way it works, that was funny. But again, it made it less funny because it made it work less because of the TMZ part.
Yeah.
Because it had been so like in your face. Because at first, this guy shows up with this kind of helmet. I just thought it was someone who was a person who was onto the UFO as well. Like at first, when he rode up, because it had this weird shiny helmet with a thing, it had specific cameras and stuff like that. I thought it was someone else because there was this whole part of the storyline of someone's going to poach this story if we're not the first ones to get to it. They are trying to be like the first ones to get there. There is a little bit of that kind of seeking fame part of this story.
Snakes,
and I feel like that could have worked fine to just leave it as a fellow competitive kind of person.
Yeah.
And again, when it said TMZ, so then it started to feel like you're being really on the nose by basically killing this person off in that kind of way as well. It's a little bit like it kind of lowers that kind of standard a little bit. It
died
makes
by
it
their own undoing.
if it just been someone else who'd shown up, but I'm happy for it to stay purely because the electric motorbike part is just funny.
I mean, it was funny when he was dying. He was like, "Get my camera," and the same when the
again, though, that still felt like he was, because he's that reporter guy.
Yeah.
Again, it felt a bit overdone. Like, he says it about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like when Michael Wincott, when he got the footage of the UFO, and then he was like, I have to get the master.
This isn't the master. This isn't the impossible.
Which then ruined it.
Yeah. That kind of thing. Well, I got that.
No, I mean
I knew he was going to be that guy.
It ruined the actual footage they had, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it did. I think he takes that's a handheld one. The IMAX one's still down there.
Okay. I thought
it was separate cameras. I have no idea if they still have it because it might have all got sucked up or thrown around. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we went off on the tangent. I went off on a tangent to talk about the whole whatever
storm.
we were talking about.
We were talking
about the storm. Let's
end with the storm, I think.
Yeah, let's
end on a positive.
The storm was fantastic.
Storm was amazing.
The storm, Daniel Kaluuya's character coming back, the power going out. Angel's character, who's just about to leave, the storm begins. He gets back, rushes back into the house. We have the whole knife. Where he stood there kind of with a knife and they're like, what the fuck's going on? He grabs a knife for no reason to then just go and hide under a table.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what are you going to do? But I guess they don't know what this alien is at that point. No. They don't know if it's about to come down to them or something like that, because only...
Which seems the logical.
Yeah, exactly. It's it. Yeah. That's why. It seems illogical. That's why it makes sense. So the whole house starts getting, but the best part of it is we start to get the falling debris. So we get confirmed we get the scooter the wheelchair scooter that falls onto the roof. Yeah. We get the different parts of different characters that you might have noticed as you were looking around, their cameras, their jewelry, keys start to indent into the walls. I think you see a part of Stephen Young's jacket, which is on one of the posters for the film, which I was like, I posted on our Insta the other day with that kind of background. I was like, the shit actually has a UFO on it. That's when it confirmed to me. I was like, he knows about the UFOs. Yeah. Because at that point, it seemed like he was just doing a horse show or something. Yeah. And it's like, there's UFOs all over your jacket. Oh, okay. That's cool. We got all of that. But the money shot has to be one. We get the storm. At first, we get what looks like the storm kind of as if the water goes up and then goes down. Well, we kind of get a movement of the rainwater.
Well, one thing that was cool was as Kiki Palmer and Angel Torres, I don't know why I used one actress's name and one character's name. As they're in the house, we see the rain outside, the storm coming down. Yeah. And then it stops as the alien is over them. Yeah. And then I thought that was amazing. I was like, oh, fuck. Imagine seeing that.
And then it starts to be an even heavier pour down.
Yeah.
Which you're like, why? And then you start to realize what it actually is that's pouring down when she goes past to get a flash of lightning and realize that it's not rain.
Yeah.
It's the blood of all of those 40 people that is now raining down. And the blood looks awesome. Coming down, running down. That shot where it shows it outside the house where the blood is just falling down the UFO above it kind of thing was such a money shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was you looked at it, I was like, fucking hell, that's so cool.
It was awesome. And then, then obviously when it came over to Daniel Kaluuya and... it's just such a...
We get the whole...
tense.
Isn't that the same scene when he pops his head out the car door and looks up and sees it's right there above him? And
nope.
Back into the car. So, I mean, that scene literally, I remember I was sat there thinking to myself going, you know what, I think I'm definitely, if this keeps going in this way, I'm going to love it. I'm going to, this is going to be this is going to be a great film. I understand why it's so highly praised kind of thing. We said we're finished on it, but I feel like we have to just quickly mention it does go. This is where it starts to. They make a plan. I'm going to kind of move through this quick. They make a plan. They use a bunch of inflatable guys. They use a non-electric camera, with Michael Wincott's character comes to be the one to catch the impossible shot. We've already said he dies by his own kind of stupid kind of sacrifice in a way. To kind of get this shot, I think with the intention that he does know that these things get dropped back off. I don't know if he thinks that camera will be
Yeah.
As in drop down again. So this footage will live on.
Maybe.
But we've had all of that with the TMZ guy. We have Daniel Clear on a horse kind of thing. And Angel's kind of around. He does well save himself at one point when he's getting sucked up by literally, you wonder why he's putting barbed wire around himself. He's wrapped himself around, and it's purely because the second he tries to sucks him in, he's actually attached to a fence, and it just saves him.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?"
Yeah, I liked him. I think he was a cool character.
He was like enjoyable. I liked the fact that they kind of had to have an actual tech. It wasn't just them magically knowing how to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
They actually had to have experts to help them do it, which again was a good kind of like character to know, like they aren't actually going to be experts on half of this stuff. So we get the whole roaming of the UFO, and we get Daniel Kaluuya getting chased on a horse.
Yeah,
which is a great shot where you've got him going. But then this is the part for me. Like the build up to this was fine. The plan was fine. It's just this final part. We kind of it suddenly feels a little bit less inspired.
Yeah.
And the creature changes form into, we've mentioned this, I don't know, angel jellyfish with a weird box of string.
Yeah.
Not string, like whatever you'd call it, kind of
tendrils. I don't know.
Kind of, but they kind of look like plastic, like when you have like green plastic or something, what I mean? Like coming out of it. I don't know. I wasn't keen on the design, and I kind of liked the fact the UFO kind of looked a bit like a UFO, like a silver, but it also had it had a skin that kind of reminded me of a shark anyway. So it was kind of that kind of play in my head anyway. I don't know why. The change of form just suddenly made it look weird, having that in the background chasing them. Yeah. It felt unnecessary, to be honest. It felt like they still could have achieved the same thing with this. Daniel Kaluuya's character obviously appears to sacrifice himself. Yeah. And we get Keke Palmer, who gets that impossible shot at the end, and she lets off the balloon of Jupe's character from his show and lets that off into the air. And obviously it takes that in because they already know that it hated the fact earlier in the film, the reason, and in all of the posters, it has the little bunting kind of kite kind of thing flying down, is because it actually sucked up a plastic horse, which it did not like, and it spits it back out onto the top of Daniel Kaluuya's car in one of the scenes. In the storm, in the storm scene. So they know that it doesn't like that, and now they think, can I put something bigger into it? Obviously, and she puts something bigger, that will mess him up, with the idea that it's going to hurt him. Don't know if she knows it's going to have this much effect. I think they know that if it gets squeezed, it's going to explode. Yeah, I think so. And again, so this is what I mean. And again, I got to be honest. Again, just to say, I did say I would come back to this. Jaws, 1. We take an item, we get it inside of the monster, and it blows up. Yeah. We have a character who we think is dead returned right at the final shot of the film. Daniel Kaluuya's character coming back at the end, just like in Jaws when the character dies. We have the person who is seen as more of the expert in the field, who then dies from the monster, chasing that impossible kind of thing. And all of this kind of movement of the alien going around, these scenes that kind of build to it, the fact that they've got a plan and that the plan doesn't work out and that they have to kind of move away from it. To me, that just all felt, this is why I think it's being compared to Spielberg, because it's so very, very Jaws in its approach. I don't know. For me, in its suspense, there's just too many parallels in my head that were just there. Well, for me, I just, after the storm, when they were formulating the plan, I thought, okay, maybe we'll get to the next part, but I don't know. The end, I didn't really feel any tension. No, the end part, I'll admit, this is why I think it goes a bit limp, because I think there's so much suspense in that storm scene before it, and that there's going to be a little bit of a calm. But the problem is, like, that storm scene's so strong that then makes this bit seem a little bit weak. Like, the suspense isn't totally there. I don't know why, if part of me just didn't believe that Daniel Kaluuya's character was going to die. But even the fact that we don't really see it much at all, but we do hear what sounds like the horse screaming, so we think maybe. but we don't get like this last part doesn't really have that huge tension because it does kind of play out the way I expected it to. I expected Michael Wincott's character to die. I thought maybe Angel character might die, kind of thing. And like everyone kind of the characters I expected to live were OJ and M, and it kind of played out like that. And a lot of the chase scenes just didn't feel like they weren't just suddenly going to get sucked up. So it kind of didn't have that kind of tension for me. But my main thing is the fact that although I really like that UFO and kind of that being an actual living organism, and I liked that kind of like subverting idea.
Yeah.
I also think that he, with that idea, slightly backed himself into a corner of what do you do with a creature like this that could just suck you up? What are these characters when we're keeping it to such a small kind of setting?
Yeah.
What are these characters actually going to do to stop this creature? Because it's like that. And for some people, the air balloon thing is going to be a little bit like almost comical to them and seem a little bit silly, maybe.
Yeah, I can see how that might.
I don't think everyone. I think Anna.
Anna
she said she didn't really get that kind of. And I can see a lot of people being a bit like, that seems a little bit really silly or a little bit, it's just a little bit off. And I just do think that last half an hour is just a little bit off from the rest of the film. I pretty much up until even the plan, I was pretty much happy. It just is that last bit, especially when the creature changes design, that I don't know. It felt like he didn't know how to completely wrap this story up.
Maybe.
I mean, it felt like, we had to have the one character go off by themselves to kind of try and stop and blow up the creature. And again, flogging a dead horse. But again, this was her on the ground, it in the air. But it still kind of felt like he was trying that Jaws scene without the tension, without the build-up, without the shot to kill it off. It was just, we watched it suck up a balloon and then it realized it can't take it and it bursts. It didn't feel like a big moment to me.
No, I agree with you.
It didn't feel that big. So my main problem is it just doesn't stick that landing. But most of the film, I think, is it's fantastically shot. Cinematography is beautiful. I think Jordan Peele's direction is very good. I think for the most part, his writing is very good.
Yeah.
As we said, I think he is getting better at being a little bit more subtle with some of his tones and stuff like that. I would be interested to see if this is going to be the way it continues or whether he's going to continue to do, I don't know, horror. He might not even do horror. He might go into a different field.
I think he loves horror.
I think he loves horror, but I don't know if he's going to go any more kind of graphic or brutal in any way.
I can't imagine.
Because I think he likes to tell it in this Hitchcockian, Spielbergian kind of...
Yeah, that's what
that kind of laid out long. So I don't think you'll ever expect like a short. It's always going to be like a 2-hour kind of film.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me to kind of summarize, I think it's a extremely well-made film. I feel like particularly Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer knock it out of the park. I think there's really strong performances by them. Same with Steven Yeun. I would have maybe preferred to have him in a little bit more. I like a lot of the themes. However, I kind of right now I'm not overly huge on the subversion. Yet again, maybe watching this again, knowing that it's not it's not a UFO, it's an actual living thing, that could change. It could change on the next watch. I just think I was let down by the lack of tension throughout most of the film for me. There were some moments of tension, but I think a large amount of it just wasn't really there. But I would recommend people go and see this. I always think if, particularly a new film that's, that's not just another sequel or a remake or a cash in. It's original.
And I mentioned it as before, I think when it's a film like this where you kind of have to have an aura of mystery around it, I think it's better to see it on the big screen where you fully have to concentrate on it kind of thing in this kind of way. So, if you can get to see it in the cinema, I think it's going to help your experience a lot more with this kind of film.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as always, thank you for listening to the show.
We have been sweating.
We've been
both sat
sweating.
here. I feel like I'm like a sweat, like a ball of sweat right now.
Yeah,
The longer we've been sat here, the more it seems it's hot in the evenings.
It's still 26 degrees, man.
Yeah,
it's almost midnight.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, as always, if you've enjoyed the show, thank you for listening. Please hit the subscribe button on whichever podcast app you're listening to, so you get the episodes as soon as they're released. And come and find us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at CMTH Podcast. We will see you soon. Don't go riding any horses or
watch the clouds.
Watch the clouds. Bye bye.